The sky was still burning, smoke rose from the cracked ground, and pieces of metal lay scattered across the battlefield. The war between humans and the Varelians had lasted for months. Now the final shot had been fired. Shiloh lay there, face down. In the dirt, her breathing slow and painful. She could not feel her left leg, blood thick and dark blue ran down her armor. Her weapon was gone, her helmet cracked, and her energy suit nearly useless. She had no strength left. She could only wait. She thought this was the end. She closed her eyes, expecting to feel a human's boot on her back, then a final bullet. That's how it happened to others. Varelian prisoners were rarely spared. No one showed mercy in war, especially not the humans, but instead, she heard slow, heavy steps. And then silence. A shadow stood above her. She opened one eye. A tall figure in dark human armor was staring down at her. His weapon was pointed but not firing. His face was hidden behind a helmet, but his stance wasn't aggressive. He just watched. Shyla's hand twitched toward her belt, searching for a blade that wasn't there. She gasped from the pain. Her leg was broken. She was sure of it now. The human lowered his weapon. She blinked. What was he doing? He took a slow step forward, then crouched beside her. His voice came through the helmet, calm and deep. Can you hear me? Shyla didn't respond. She only stared, confused, her heart pounding. Was this a trick? I'm not here to hurt you, he said. She still didn't move. She expected pain, death, torture, but this human was speaking, gently, slowly, carefully, like she was some wild creature that might run away. If she could even walk, then he did something strange. He reached into his pack and pulled out a small bottle of water. He placed it near her hand. Shyla's throat was dry. She hadn't had water in hours, maybe longer, but she didn't touch it. Her people had always warned her never accept kindness from the enemy. It is always a trap, but she couldn't look away. I saw what happened, he continued. You fought hard. I'm not going to kill you. Her voice cracked as she whispered. Why? The man paused. He took off his helmet. And for the first time, Shyla saw his face. He was young. Maybe not much older than she was. He had short brown hair, light scars on his jaw, and tired but kind eyes. He gave a small smile. Because not every human wants this war. Shyla's lips parted, but she had no words. That answer didn't make sense. This was war. Mercy didn't exist on battlefields. Can you move? He asked. She tried to sit up, but screamed from the pain in her leg. Okay, don't move, he said quickly. He touched a small button on his wrist, and his armor gave a soft beep. She panicked. Calling others to kill me? No, calling for help. The beeping stopped. Silence returned, except for the burning wind around them. Then, without warning, the human gently reached under her shoulders. Shyla struggled. No, let me go. You'll die here, he said firmly. Let me carry you. She froze again. No one had touched her like this since she was a child. Not even her own kind. He lifted her like she was weightless. She groaned in pain, and he adjusted his arm so he wouldn't hurt her more. Shyla's head rested against his shoulder, and all she could think was, why? Why was this human carrying her? Why wasn't he ending her life like a real soldier? Why wasn't he treating her like the enemy? They moved through the smoke, past the dead Varelian and human alike. Shyla's heart felt heavy. Her people were gone. Her home was destroyed. And now she was being carried by the very kind that did it. But something inside her whispered, this one is different. They reached a small, ruined outpost. Jack placed her gently on a supply crate and pulled out a small medkit. He looked at her leg and winced. That's a bad break, he said. You're lucky I found you. Why, are you helping me? She finally asked again. He looked at her, then spoke slowly. Because you don't deserve to die like this. Her eyes widened. No one had ever told her she deserved to live. Not even her own commanders. Shyla stared at the human at Jack. Her heart beat faster, but not from fear. From something else. Confusion. Curiosity. And deep inside her, the first spark of something dangerous. Hope. Shyla never imagined her First time being carried would be by a human. His arms were strong but careful. His steps were steady as he moved through the burning ruins. Each footstep echoed across the battlefield, but he didn't stop. Even when smoke stung his eyes and the air burned his throat, he kept going. She didn't know his name yet. Only that. He didn't kill her. And that made no sense. Zyla tried to look at his face again, but her head throbbed. Her body wanted to sleep forever. She had lost everything, her squad, her honor, even her will to fight. But this strange human was not letting her fall. Her people had warned her. If captured, do not expect mercy. Humans are cold, ruthless. They show no pity. Yet this one was risking his life just to carry her. Every few minutes, he looked down at her, checking if she was still awake. When their eyes met, he didn't look angry. He looked worried. Why? Why would an enemy care about her pain? As they reached a small rise of scorched earth, Zyla groaned. Her leg bumped against his armor. The pain shot up her side like lightning. He stopped. Sorry, he said softly, like she was something fragile. Just a little more, his voice. It was calm, deep. It had no hate in it, no orders, no cruelty. Zyla had never heard a human speak like that. Not even in their broadcasts. He carried her into the shell of a half-destroyed supply station. The roof was gone, but part of the wall still stood. It was quiet there, too quiet. The kind of quiet that made her nervous. He gently placed her down on a broken bench. She gasped at the movement, but he was quick, pulling off his helmet and kneeling beside her. His brown hair was soaked in sweat, and his blue eyes were filled with concern. He opened his medkit and pulled out a small scanner. Zyla tensed. Is that a weapon? He shook his head. It scans bones. You've got a fracture, maybe two. But I can stabilize it. She couldn't believe it. An enemy soldier was not only saving her life, he was healing her. Still, she growled, why are you doing this? He paused, then looked her straight in the eyes. Because if the roles were reversed, I want someone to help me too. She had no answer. Her culture didn't believe in such things. They believed in strength. Victory, honor through domination. But this human was speaking a completely different language. He pulled out a long strip of metal and wrapped it around her leg. It clicked in place with a soft hum, stiffening her broken limb. Pain surged through her, but she bit her lip and stayed silent. You're tough, he said with a smirk. Not many would stay awake through that. She raised her brow. You're mocking me? No, he replied. I'm impressed. Zyla didn't know how to respond. Compliments from an enemy? Kindness? Where was the trick, the hidden cruelty? She was expecting poison in the water, a hidden knife in the bandages, but there was nothing, just warmth, help, a strange silence that spoke louder than all the battles she had survived. Suddenly, a static voice broke through the communicator. On his wrist? Jack? Do you copy? We're sweeping the west ruins? Zyla flinched. Jack, so that was his name. Jack answered. Copy, I've got a survivor. A pause. Human? Jack looked at Zyla for a long second, then replied, No, Varelian, female, wounded. Not hostile. There was more silence. Understood, stay put. We'll send a med team. Jack turned to her and smiled slightly. Looks like help is on the way. Zyla's heart pounded again, but not from fear. She wasn't a prisoner. She wasn't being tortured. She was being protected. She looked at him. This strange human who should have ended her life, and instead carried her like a treasure he didn't want to drop. Thank you, she whispered. He nodded. No need. You're not the first enemy I've helped. Her eyes widened. Why would you help any of us? His answer was quiet but powerful. Because war doesn't make us monsters. But how we treat the weak, that shows who we really are. Zyla looked away. Her throat tightened. Was she really the weak one here, or was he just impossibly strong? As the wind carried the smoke away and the sound of human rescue mechs grew louder in the distance, Zyla understood something that shook her to the core. This human was not like the stories. He wasn't here to destroy her. He had already changed her. The night came quickly. The sky turned dark over the ruined outpost, and the stars above blinked like silent watchers. The flames of battle had faded into distant smoke. The ground was quiet now, but not peaceful. Inside a broken shelter made from scraps of metal and canvas, Gila lay still, her leg wrapped tightly in a human stabilizer brace. Her skin was cold, but her thoughts burned hot. She couldn't sleep. She watched the human soldier, Jack, as he sat a few feet away, checking his gear in the dim glow of a small portable light. His rifle was nearby, but it wasn't in his hands. He didn't guard her. He didn't chain her. He didn't even keep a weapon pointed at her. That confused her more than anything. She had been trained. Since birth, humans are dangerous. Never trust their smiles. If they offer peace, they're only hiding the knife. Yet this one had offered her water, had carried her, had spoken to her like she mattered, and now he was giving her space, warmth and silence. That was scarier than any battlefield. Shyla finally broke the quiet. "You're not afraid I'll kill you in your sleep?" Jack didn't even look up. He just shrugged. "If you wanted to kill me, you would have already tried. You had chances." She frowned. "How do you know I won't betray you the moment I can stand?" He finally looked at her, his eyes calm, his voice honest. I just choose to believe you won't." Gila stared at him. "Why?" she asked softly. "Why believe in me?" Jack leaned back against the wall. "Because someone once believed in me, when I didn't deserve it." The firelight flickered across his face. He looked older in the shadows, more tired, like he'd seen things no soldier should. Gila hesitated. Then she whispered, "Who was it?" He paused. "My sister," he said quietly. "She was a doctor during the Mars plague. I was a dropout, a fighter. Useless, some said. But she gave me a second chance, trained me, helped me become a medic first, then a soldier." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "She died in an alien bombing 2 years ago." Gila felt her chest tighten. "I'm sorry," she said. Jack nodded. "Thanks, but that's why I do what I do. Not every enemy is evil. Not every war is right." She believed in healing first. I try to follow that even in places like this. Gila turned her head, looking up at the torn ceiling where stars peeked through. "My brother died last week," she said. "Shot in the back by a human while helping a wounded friend." Jack didn't speak. "He was a good soldier," she added. "A better brother. We were promised honor if we fought hard. We believed it, but now I'm here, alone, and you're helping me more than my own kind ever did." The silence between them grew heavy, but not cold. It was the kind of silence that held truth. Jack shifted closer, but still gave her space. "You don't have to be my enemy," he said. "Not tonight," Shyla let out a small breath. "Then what are we?" "A human and a broken alien sitting in the ruins of each other's war." Jack looked at her, and for the first time his eyes softened in a way that felt personal. "We're just two people," he said. "Two survivors. And maybe that's enough right now." The wind howled outside. A distant boom echoed somewhere beyond the hills. But inside that shelter, a strange warmth grew. Jayla reached for the water bottle he'd left earlier. This time she drank it. She didn't flinch. She smiled. "You don't hate me anymore," he said quietly. "I don't know what I feel," she replied, then looked down at her injured leg. "But I know this. If you wanted to hurt me, you had every chance. You didn't." She looked up again. "That means something." Jack's voice was softer now. "It means we're not like the others. Maybe there's a different way." Jayla lay back, her eyes half closed now. "I never thought I'd find peace beside a human," she whispered, "and I never thought I'd find trust in an alien's eyes." Jack replied, "For the first time since the war began." They both slept, not as enemies, not even as soldiers, but as two souls who realized that even in a galaxy full of hatred and fire, a quiet night could still hold the beginning of something new. Asterisk. The quiet didn't last. It never does in war. Shyla woke up before dawn, her eyes opening slowly to a strange sound in the distance like thunder rumbling beneath the ground. But this thunder had rhythm, footsteps, many of them. She looked around. The sky was still dark. The camp was silent. Jack lay nearby, sleeping lightly with his back against the wall, his rifle within reach, but not in his hands. Then she heard it. Again, louder now. Oh, thum. Shyla's heart jumped. That wasn't thunder. That was marching. She sat up, wincing from the pain in her leg. She reached out and shook Jack's shoulder. Wake up, she whispered. Something's coming. Jack opened his eyes instantly, alert like a soldier trained to wake in battle. He didn't ask questions. He just listened, and then he heard it too, not human boots. He grabbed his rifle and peered through a crack in the broken wall. His eyes narrowed. Not ours, he said. Jila pulled herself closer, dragging her injured leg. Who is it? Jack turned his head slowly. They're Varelian, your kind. Jila froze, but something was wrong. These weren't her people from the old army. Their armor was darker, their movements sharper, more violent. These were rogue hunters, the Black Scar Elite. They didn't rescue. They erased. They'll kill both of us, she said. Jack looked confused. I thought they were your allies. Jila shook her head. Not anymore. They don't take prisoners. They destroy anything that touched humans, even their own kind. Jack clenched his jaw. We need to move, now. But I can't run, she said, pointing to her brace. Jack didn't hesitate. He grabbed his gear and moved to her side. Then I'll carry you again? No, Jila whispered. If they see you carrying me, they'll mark me as a traitor forever. Jack stared at her. You'd rather die than be seen helping me? Jila looked away. I'd rather not make you a target. He placed a firm hand on her shoulder. Too late for that. I already chose my side. Without waiting, he lifted her again, this time faster, tighter. Jila could feel his heartbeat against her chest. It was calm, steady, as if he wasn't scared, but she was. The Black Scar Elites were less soldiers and more executioners. She had seen them burn villages, even kill younglings for simply speaking to humans. And now, she, once a proud warrior, was being cradled by the enemy in the eyes of those monsters. They slipped out the back of the ruins. Using the smoke and shadows as cover, Jack took a narrow path down a ridge, careful not to make noise. Jila buried her face against his shoulder. Not from shame, but from survival. But luck was a cruel god. A sharp light cut across the sky. A drone it beeped once. Then alarms began to ring. Move! Jack shouted. He ran now, faster than she thought. He could, zigzagging between rock and ruin. Energy bolts blasted around them, hitting stone, dirt, metal. Jila wrapped her arms around his neck. Put me down. I'll slow you. No, he growled. You saved me before. It's my turn now. They reached a crashed ship, husk burned. And Black and Dan dove behind it. Bullets kept flying. Jack returned fire, short and controlled. Shayla, even injured, reached out and pulled a fallen enemy's pistol from the ground. Give me a line of sight, she said. He looked at her. You sure? She cocked the pistol with shaking hands. They want me dead anyway. They fought together, human and alien, covering each other. Back to back. Two beings who, days ago, would have tried to kill one another, now fought to survive. Side by side. The Black Scars didn't expect that. One fell. Then another, the rest retreated. Just for a moment, enough to breathe, Jack fell to his knees, panting. Jila collapsed beside him. Nice shot, he said between breaths. Likewise, she replied. You don't shoot like a normal human soldier, he chuckled. That's because I'm not. I wasn't supposed to be here. She raised a brow. What do you mean? I volunteered, he said. After my sister died, I asked for the front lines. I wanted to understand the enemy. Now I do. Jayla looked at him closely. What do you see? She asked. He answered. Without thinking, I see someone worth saving. She looked down, then up at the sky. She had just killed her own kind to protect a human, and somehow, she didn't regret it, not even a little. The wind was still. The air smelled of smoke, burned metal, and blood. The brief silence after battle felt like the moment before a scream. Jack and Jila sat in the shadow of the burned ship, side by side, breathing hard. Their hands were still. Shaking, Jila turned to him slowly. Why didn't you run? Jack wiped a streak of sweat and ash from his brow. Because I wasn't going to leave you, she blinked, even if it meant dying. He looked at her, really looked, and said, Some things are worth dying for. Jila didn't know what to say. Her throat felt tight. She had fought in dozens of battles, trained under harsh generals, survived when others had fallen, but no one, not even her own blood, had said something like that to her. Her people respected strength. They followed winners. Jack followed something else entirely. Heart. She stared at him, heart pounding not from fear, but from something more dangerous. But then a sharp whine echoed through the sky. Jack! Too late, a plasma shot from above slammed into the ground nearby. Throwing them both back, Shyla hit the dirt hard, rolling painfully. Her brace cracked, and her legs screamed in pain. She tried to rise, tried to crawl to Jack, but then she saw him. He wasn't moving, his armor was scorched. Blood spilled from beneath his shoulder. One side of his body was twisted wrong. No, she whispered. No, no, no. Shyla dragged herself across the ground, ignoring her own pain. Her hands were raw from the rocks, her breath shallow from the smoke, but she kept moving until she reached him. His eyes were open, but dazed. He tried to speak. Couldn't. Don't talk, she whispered, voice trembling. Save your strength. She pulled off his armor piece by piece with trembling fingers, finding the wound. It was deep, too deep. The burn had gone through skin and muscle. She panicked. Human. Medkits were nearby, but she had something better, something sacred. She reached into a pouch at her side. A small blue stone lay within a bindstone, gifted only to Varelian warriors for life-saving oaths. Her brother had given it to her once, and she had sworn never to use it unless her soul depended on it. Now, it did. She held the glowing stone over Jack's wound. He stirred. What? Is that? My choice? She said softly. My thanks? The bindstone activated, glowing bright, and warmth spread across his skin. His body relaxed. The bleeding slowed. His breathing eased, but the price was hers. The bond meant she would now be linked to him spiritually, biologically, forever. It was a Varelian law. Save a life. Oh, a life. Her fate was now tied to his. She didn't care. You're going to live, she whispered. Jack coughed weakly. You used your sacred item on me? Shyla smiled through tears. You carried me when I couldn't walk. You fought for me. You protected me. This is nothing compared to what you've already done. His hand slowly reached for hers. Their fingers touched, human and alien. Warmth flowed between them. Then a new sound. Distant engines. Mechs. Shyla tensed. She reached for her pistol, pulling herself over Jack's body to shield him, but the lights that appeared weren't red. They were blue. Human rescue mechs. Medics. Shyla lowered the weapon. Eyes wide. Jack looked up, dazed but smiling. Told you. Help was coming. The soldiers rushed in. They saw Shyla, hands bloody, crouched over their man, guns raised, shouting, but Jack lifted a weak hand. She's not the enemy. He couldn't finish the sentence, but it didn't matter. His voice held power. The soldiers hesitated, one step forward. We were tracking you, Jack. Your signal's been off for hours. You're lucky we found you. He nodded, then pointed to Shyla. She saved me. The soldiers stared. Then one of them lowered his weapon. We'll take him first, he said. He needs immediate care. We'll decide what to do with her later. Shyla stepped back as they carried Jack onto a stretcher. His hand reached out to her as they pulled him away. Don't go far, he whispered. She smiled faintly, blood on her lips. I'm bound to you now, she said softly. I couldn't leave, even if I wanted to. And as the mechs rolled into the smoke, lifting the wounded into safety, Shyla realized something she never thought she'd feel again. She was no longer alone. Asterisk. The medbay was cold. Shyla sat on the edge of a narrow bench, wrapped in a blanket too thin for her taste. Her leg was still braced but healing. The human machines had scanned her, patched her wounds, and even gave her food. But no one had spoken a kind word since she arrived. She wasn't a guest. She wasn't a prisoner. She was something strange. An alien saved by a human. And no one knew what to do with that. She could feel their eyes, officers, guards, doctors, watching her from every corner of the ship. Whispers followed her down the hallways. Is that the alien Jack carried? In? Why is she still alive? What kind of spell did she use? They didn't understand. Neither did she. Fully all she knew was Jack was alive, healing, resting in the medbay room across from hers, and that was all that mattered, until the summons came. A young human officer stepped into her room, sharp-eyed and silent. "The council wants to speak to you," Jyla raised an eyebrow. "Your war council?" He nodded. "Now." The room was full of cold metal and colder faces. 6 high-ranking humans sat around a large table, each wearing crisp uniforms and unreadable expressions. Holograms glowed between them, maps, reports, recordings. Jyla stood in the center, surrounded by guards. The head officer, a woman with silver hair and eyes like ice, spoke first. "You are Jyla of the Varelian 5th Battalion, correct?" "Yes," she answered calmly. "You fought against us." "You killed human soldiers?" "Yes." "You were found injured, carried into one of our camps by Staff Sergeant Jack Renshaw." Jyla nodded. "You healed him with a Varelian artifact." "The Bind Stone," she confirmed. The woman leaned forward. "That stone forms a permanent soul bond, correct?" Jyla hesitated, then said, "Yes." A silence fell across the room. Another officer stood. "You do realize what that means? A human hour soldier is now bound to an alien combatant. Spiritually. Biologically," Jyla remained still. "He saved my life. I saved his. We are not enemies anymore." The silver-haired woman frowned. "That is not your decision." Jyla's voice grew sharp. "Then whose is it? Yours? The ones who send young men to die while you sit behind walls?" A few officers stiffened. A guard reached for his weapon, but the lead officer raised a hand. She was staring at Jyla, harder now but also curious. "Why did you do it?" she asked. "What?" "Why save him?" Jyla looked at her hands, then slowly met the woman's gaze. "Because he looked at me like I was a person. Not a monster. He carried me without question. He protected me when my own kind tried to kill me. I saw in him what I never saw in any commander: mercy, strength, and honor." Another officer sneered. "Or maybe it's manipulation." "Maybe you're using the bond to spy, to weaken him." Jyla stepped forward. "If I wanted him dead, I could have let him bleed out. I chose to save him, and I will do it again." Silence. Then the door opened. Everyone turned. Jack stood there, still pale, one arm in a sling but standing tall. His uniform was torn at the shoulder. A medical patch glowed faintly under his shirt. But his eyes were clear and he was angry. "You called her here without telling me?" he said. The officers exchanged glances. "You're in no condition to." "She's my bondmate," Jack snapped. "That gives her rights." "You know the treaty codes?" More silence. Jack stepped beside Jyla, standing close, defiant. "She saved me. That's all the proof you need." The silver-haired woman looked at him long and hard. "Jack, you understand what this bond means?" "I do. You could lose your rank. Your command. You may never return to active duty." Jack nodded. "If that's the price, I accept it." Jyla's eyes widened. "You'd give all that up?" He turned to her, smiling softly. "I didn't survive this war to go back to being a killer. I found something better." For a long moment, no one moved. Then the woman leaned back in her chair. "Fine," everyone looked at her. "We won't break the bond. We'll monitor it, study it, but for now, she stays." "As your responsibility," Jack nodded. "That's all I ask." As the guards stood down and the tension finally left the room, Jyla looked up at Jack. "You just made a lot of enemies," she whispered. He smiled. "So did you." They walked out together, shoulder to shoulder, and for the first time, not as soldier and enemy, but as something new. Something unknown. The stars looked different now. Jyla stood at the edge of the human ship's outer deck, her silver eyes reflecting the endless black sky beyond the glass dome. Planets glowed in the distance, moons floated like lanterns and nebulae painted the void with soft color, but her focus wasn't on the stars. It was on what was standing next to her. Jack. His arm was out of the sling now. His uniform cleaned, his medals returned, but he wore them differently, not with pride. Not with power. With purpose. He stood in silence, shoulder brushing hers. Neither of them had spoken for a while. They didn't need to. The bond between them had grown stronger over the past days. Not just the mystical tie from the bindstone, but something more human, more fragile. Understanding. Trust. Zhyla broke the silence first. They still look at me like I'm a weapon, she said quietly. Jack gave a small smile. That's because they don't understand you yet. Do you? She asked. He turned to her. I'm trying, every day. She looked down at her reflection in the glass floor. I don't belong in their world, and I don't belong in mine anymore either. Jack was quiet for a moment, then said, Maybe that means you belong somewhere new. Zhyla raised a brow. With you? He nodded. If you'll stay, she studied him. Even after all this, you'd choose to have me at your side? Jack chuckled. You saved my life, remember? I owe you, Zhyla smirked. I think we're even. They stood in silence again, the stars wrapping around them like a quiet blanket. Suddenly, the door opened behind them. A young human lieutenant stepped in. Sir, we've received a message from High Command. They're asking about your next posting. Jack looked at Zhyla. I told them I'd give them my answer tomorrow. The officer nodded and left. Zhyla turned to him. Are you going back? Jack shrugged. I don't think I want to fight anymore. Zhyla blinked. So, what then? He turned to her, fully now. There's talk of a research station, one that studies alien tech and diplomacy. On the edge of Varelian space, they need someone who understands both sides. Her eyes narrowed. And you think I'd go with? You? He leaned closer. I think we've already been through the worst together. Why not see what peace looks like? Zhyla looked away, pretending to think. But her heart had already made its choice. I'll come, she said. Jack raised a brow. Just like that? She smirked. You saved me, I saved you. And now you want to drag me to the edge of space to help build peace. Sounds ridiculous. Is that a yes? It's a maybe. They both laughed, but beneath the laughter, something shifted softly, quietly. Not love. Not yet. But something that could become it. Something stronger than war. 2 weeks later, the ship was ready, supplies packed, crew briefed, coordinates locked, and Jack stood near the boarding ramp, hands on his hips. Zhyla appeared, dressed in a mix of human and Varelian gear. Her brace was gone. Her steps were firm again. She stopped in front of him. He looked her up and down. Nice outfit. She raised an eyebrow. I mixed both worlds. Like you said, something new? He offered his hand. She took it. They boarded together. As the ship launched into the stars, leaving behind politics, pain, and everything they once were. Both Jack and Zhyla stood side by side at the viewing deck, silent again, but this time, the silence wasn't heavy. It was peaceful. Hopeful. Chyla finally whispered. We should have killed each other, you know? Jack chuckled. I'm glad we didn't, she nodded. So am I. And far from the noise of war, two former enemies disappeared into the stars, not as soldier and captive, not even as alien and human, but as something entirely new. Bonded. Together. Finally free.